Welcome back, DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast, and I think this is our first actual episode of 2024.
Yes,
it is, isn't it? It is, isn't it? So, Happy New Year. I know we've probably said this about 4 times now, but this time we actually mean it. Happy New Year from all of us and recording the podcast. And obviously, being the off-season, it is off-season in content. We've got a couple of bits of news to catch up on, considering we haven't really had a proper episode for about a month and a half. No, maybe not a month, but about a month now. So, obviously, we had winter specials and Stingray Rob returning and Callum Ilott and all sorts. But we are reviewing what's happened in the last month. There is a bit to look back on, obviously not too much, just the festive period. So we're just going to look through that today, as well as a few little reactions to some of our previous incidents on the podcast. Obviously, the best of 2023 gave us some inspiration, so we'll look over that as well. But we're here to review what's happened in the last month or so, and I think probably the biggest news is Santino Ferrucci returning to Foyt. We obviously said in the Stingray Rob episode that's a big story, with Pedersen seemingly trying to be phased out of the team, and now Ferrucci's been confirmed for that second seat. So no real surprises there, but that we're seeing Santino Ferrucci back. But yeah, he'll be piloting the number 14 AJ Foyt next year again.
Yeah, I think by some margin he was the better option than Pedersen. It was just kind of a matter of how Foyt would get Pedersen out of what seemed to be a multi-year contract, which, according, I think, to the Indy Star, supposedly lapsed. I mean, it was a rookie year for Pedersen, his rookie year. He finished, I think, inside the top 20 only twice. Obviously had the qualifying at the Indy 500, which was quite impressive getting into the top 12. But aside from that, wasn't great. I think, I'm all for the second year for drivers, getting a second chance after coming into the series. And maybe there will still be a landing for Pedersen, possibly at Coyne, but I think having a partnership of 2 sophomore drivers would just not have worked. Him and Stingray Rob are both finding their feet, and you just feel the team would probably have lacked direction. Rob is probably the better option out of the 2. He finished 4 places higher in Indy Lights, 18 points above Pedersen in the championship. But yeah, I think it was clear that the intention was always going to be for Ferrucci to return.
Absolutely. It was obviously a case of, I think, budget more than anything else. And I don't think we're going to forget the month of May run for a while, sort of Foyt coming out of nowhere to be sort of one of the sort of David versus Goliath battle, with Foyt coming out to the front of Santino Ferrucci. And it was an impressive month, and that's obviously one of the main inspirations for them coming back, because they want to go 2 better in May this year. They think a win is on the cards, and why not?
I think it was kind of always just a matter of navigating through budget concerns. I think Ferrucci spoke about having a really good relationship with Larry Foyt, and they both parties wanted to make it work. There was a bit of inconsistency through the season, but that was kind of just emblematic of where the team were. And Ferrucci always seemed to me like the right option there. I think gives him a bit of continuity that, he hasn't often had through his career, and he can kind of continue to be the team leader and almost develop into even more of a team leader in his second year with the team. Yeah, but yeah, as we've mentioned, it's kind of, he's been a force at the 500. I think he's been top 10 in all 5 races he's done on the oval at IMS. Got his first podium, of course, in 2023. So yeah, I think there's the Penske Alliance on top of it as well, of course, which I think he also believes will be really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously with Stingray Rob coming in, he might be a good sort of mentor for Rob. Obviously, Rob isn't a rookie, but Ferrucci's got significantly more experience and with the team as well. And Rob showed flashes last year, particularly strong at Laguna Seca, did well to avoid all the chaos, and Ferrucci could well guide Rob in that, and they seem to get along very well from what we've seen so far in their first couple of maiden appearances with each other, obviously mostly relating to hair, as we've mentioned on our Instagram channels. But yeah, I think it's a great move for Foyt. It's a great move for Ferrucci. I think, although he's a controversial figure, he's great for the series. People do like him, and he's a strong driver, particularly at the 500. If I'm a 500, if I'm a team owner, I'd love to have Santino Ferrucci on my team for the Indy 500. So, great addition. Obviously, the question is now, what happens to Benjamin Pedersen? Will we see any sort of legal dramas on that front?
It's tough to say, really. You kind of would think the team would want to avoid it, and they must know, having split with Pedersen, that there was something in there. As we've said, the contract supposedly lapsing, something must have happened there. And to then announce Ferrucci, of course, and confirm that, you would expect that they feel they can get away without any legal drama. But of course, we had the statement from Pedersen saying he was looking forward to getting on track with Rob after Rob was announced. So his expectation was clearly to fulfill that second year of this multi-year deal. However, that not happening does, as we've said, kind of show that something must be a little bit awry somewhere.
Yeah, I think either something could have happened maybe that we don't know about, kind of as a outsider perspective. I think they wouldn't run the risk of kind of, like you said, going into all this legal trouble and kind of causing all of this drama around them just for like another driver, unless they really think that Ferrucci is the better option, is going to kind of take them and maybe get them the win in probably the Indy 500. I think that's where he was strongest. So yeah, I think they just wouldn't go through all of this trouble without thinking that this would pay off more.
There is a side to the story that we are missing. We don't know what that is. I'm sure we will eventually find out what that side to the story is, and it will be interesting to see what happens with it. But I just don't want another legal situation just on behalf of the series. I don't think Palou, yes, it brought attention, but I don't think it was a particularly good look all round. And then it's not as significant, but obviously we had Grosjean's case against Andretti, which we're still awaiting to hear from. So you just don't want another one of these situations for the series. I don't think it's a good look, especially sort of at lower teams. If it's happened 3 times in the space of 12 months, it's not a great look for the series. But we'll see what happens with Pedersen. There's rumblings now that Dale Coyne Racing is an opportunity for him. So we'll see what happens. We haven't heard from him since the Ferrucci announcement, but there's something that there's a domino waiting to fall somewhere from Benjamin Pedersen. Yeah,
I completely agree with everything you've just said. To be honest, you would imagine he will be chasing a landing spot somewhere, and obviously Coyne is the only spot where that could come. So I guess we wait and see what comes out, and kind of, I mean, we could be waiting until quite close to St. Pete, because there's not really any certainty over what's going to happen at Dale Coyne, it seems.
Find out first practice.
Yep, as soon as they hit the track, we'll take off the helmet after first practice, then we'll finally find out who it is.
Typical. Yeah, we'll never know. They've still got 2 to announce as well, so when the other one's going to come, it's going to be a bit of a miracle, I think. We've got, what's the counter on now, Archie? 60, 50, something?
What's this?
The count of the St. Petersburg.
Oh, sorry. I'll need to.
Have you updated it recently?
I keep forgetting to do it every day. I'm going to be honest.
I think it's 50 something. It's around the 50.
Yeah, it's 50
mark.
Something. Days until 8th of March, because that's when first practice is. 53 days.
53 days. There we are. So hopefully we'll find out the next 53 days who Dale Coyne are lining up with in 2024. We will actually find out. Remains to be seen. But there we go. Might have to make predictions later on in the video. Obviously, we'll get into that a bit later on. Another driver announcement, not as significant, but still absolutely great for the series, is that RC Enerson is going to be back with Abel Motorsports in the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500. Obviously, there was sort of a feel-good story, the Indianapolis 500. Enerson said they were the unanimous pick to be bumped, and they made the field pretty comfortably in the end. Enerson, his first time he qualified for the race, and obviously Abel Motorsports' first race, and a great learning curve for them. Obviously, last year it was a bit last minute trying to get everything sorted with engine supplies and that sort of stuff, but announced in good time this year, and we'll see him in the open test in April, and then we'll hopefully see him at the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, he made a really good impression on me on content day. I can't say I'd really heard from him that much before, but he was an entertaining guy, and obviously he's not been a full-time driver in IndyCar. He told us that he'd like that opportunity if it came about. He's done some road course races. I think he finished a best of 9th at Watkins Glen in 2016 with Coyne, where he also did Mid-Ohio and Sonoma, and then did Mid-Ohio again in 2019 with Carlin. But he failed to qualify in 2021 for the 500. I think he did one race that year on the Indy road course with Top Gun Racing, who he failed to make the 500 with, but showed persistence to come back, made the field, as you said, with a new team in Abel in 2023. And yeah, made the field comfortably. I think he said he felt he could have gone faster than his first run too, which is encouraging. And I'm interested to see whether they can make a step forward with having the April test. They obviously there's lots of track time in May, but you can't undervalue kind of the impacts of missing that April test. And I think Enerson spoke about them having to put really full emphasis just on qualifying, and it wasn't until after qualifying, after they got into the field, that they could kind of start doing race running. And yeah, a car issue saw him retire from the race, but he has some experience there under his belt now. So hopefully, if he makes the field, he can place more focus on that in 2024.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see a smaller name back. We do love an underdog in the IndyCar series, don't we? I think I mentioned this midweek, but Carl Kaiser knocking a Fernando Alonso out the Indy 500, sort of those sort of stories, what we love to see. And Abel Motorsports, I mean, it didn't go quite as significant as Kaiser was, but you know, they knocked out Graham Rahal of the Indy 500, an Indy 500 veteran, a team of the might of Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, compared to this. I don't want to be rude, but sort of a tin pot organisation who were formed just before the race to get this going. So a great story for Abel Motorsports, and it's great to see them and Enerson back, and they seem confident they can do better. And obviously, I don't see why they couldn't.
No, for sure. But the one thing is, bumping is back. We think it is pretty much confirmed by this, because I think there's three non-Indy 500, non-full-time entries, should I say. Indy 500 only entries that have already been announced. And then you've kind of got three more if you work on the assumption that Dreyer and Reinbold will run 2 again. Marco Andretti will run for Andretti. And it could be more than one car getting bumped as well. Racer have said that Foyt are targeting an extra entry relating to possibly JR Hildebrand. Possibility that RLL run another car again, which may be unwise given their overall form, but we saw them do it last year, obviously, with Catherine Legg. You've got the likes of Takuma Sato needing a ride somewhere. So
Yuri Vips on their books still.
Yuri Vips is on their books. I mean, that would be a risk, obviously, but again...
Legg was a risk.
Legg was a risk, and she made the field, and none of their 3 other full-time drivers managed to get in on the Saturday. So yeah, maybe a risk could pay off, but it'd be cool if there's more than one car that gets bumped. I mean, I think I said this the other day, but it feels even harsher when only one car doesn't make the field, and more cars competing, the better. Like, it makes it a more competitive spectacle, and you know, bump day is always the highlight when it is something that happens, and kind of adds that extra level onto qualifying weekend. But yeah, teams could be punished even more if they're not in the window, if we've got 35, 36 entries.
Yeah, 36 would be amazing. Imagine that bump day, we're in bumping 3 cars out in an hour session. That would be quite something. So really looking forward to seeing your return. It always adds an extra element. You know, you've got to be focusing on qualifying just in case this sort of thing happens. And as we said, you have those underdog stories, the Carl Kaisers, the RC Enersons, and hopefully we can bring that back this year. And it just adds such an extra enjoyment to qualifying day. Sort of the emotion when Harvey knocked Rahal out last year. Now I keep getting confused, but sort of almost the goosebumps I still get from watching that back. From again, it's sort of another underdog story. He did that run, and you know, his engine was still hot after that run, and there he goes and knocks him out by what, 0.006 a mile an hour. Incredible.
I still like to watch that back occasionally. I know we've said this before, but still, however many months on, it's still something that, wow, yeah, what a moment. And that's the sort of moment it can throw up.
Yeah, and in like this year, well, if there's going to be more entries that are going to be confirmed, it's like I said, it won't be as harsh if it's just one driver. You know, you felt a bit bad because you, as a driver, Graham Rahal, you kind of felt a bit singled out. But in this way, it's hopefully it will soften the blow a little bit, and it kind of makes them like work a bit harder, and know that even though that just in qualifying doesn't mean that they're going to get through, and to kind of add that of respect for the fans. I think it definitely keeps you on the edge of your seats. It definitely did for me, and kind of knowing that just your favourite driver could not make it through, I think it adds the aspect and kind of will draw more fans in.
Early bump day bumped prediction.
Oh no.
Before we even know who's in the field.
Yeah, very early. We'll do some more closer to the time, but we've got a good idea. I mean, we've got 31 of 36 or whatever maximum. So
it's really tough to call. So should we work off the proviso that Hildebrand, Sato,
Hildebrand, Sato, Daly, Hunter-Reay, and Andretti are going to be announced. Let's say.
I mean, Andretti didn't have a great
That would be a story.
That would be a story. I fear for Kiffin Simpson personally. I think he's one that I fear for. I also fear for. I mean, ECR usually bring a good car, but first overall race for Rasmussen could be interesting. However, I think he's shown enough pedigree on ovals that I'd be confident he can make the field. I think Simpson's the one that's just a bit of an unknown, to be honest.
Yeah.
Will be his first oval race. He's young. It doesn't have masses of experience.
I mean, at least Simpson and not Lundqvist, what's his name? Rasmussen have done an Indy next. That's something that Tom Blomqvist doesn't have at all.
Blomqvist is another one that's not a bad shout, to be fair. First oval race, and I suppose that's what you've got to look at, isn't it, as well? With no Texas, this is going to be a baptism of fire. Obviously, you've got all the practice time. But yeah, it's hard to say. Are you going to throw any names out there?
I'm going to throw a name out there. I'm going to go fire prediction to start the year. This year might be the year of my crazy predictions, and I hope I get one right. I'm going to go Roman Grosjean.
Wow.
I can just see it happen. Like, Hunkos weren't great last year. Obviously, Ilott had his issues for months. Obviously, he kind of got away with it, and Canapino survived a very scary crash on Indy 500 day. But, Grosjean doesn't have a great track record at IMS. He's obviously taken a bit of a step backwards not a step backwards, but you know what I mean. Obviously, Hunkos haven't been as competitive as Andretti at the 500, and I can just see something going wrong.
I know what you mean, to be fair, because again, it's kind of a case of you could get really derailed by a crash, and we know Grosjean's not someone who doesn't crash often.
Interesting way of putting it.
when the long way round. It's hard. It's really hard. I think, I worry for Kiffin Simpson. I think if I'm going to put one name out there, possibly. Again, you mentioned Blomqvist. It's just looking at the guys who haven't done an oval in IndyCar before. And Blomqvist is a good point because he hasn't done an oval in anything other than testing. So it's a good shot.
I feel like it's way too early to predict, and I'm not good at predictions. I feel like I agree with what you're saying, and with something going wrong with Grosjean. I don't know if it'd cause him to kind of bump out, but I feel like something in the weekend would not go right. But I'd just go with someone that doesn't kind of have the experience on an oval track. So just anyone else.
Pick a name. We're going to pressure you.
I'll go with who I actually said.
Kiffin Simpson. I'll see if I'm right in 4 months' time.
It is an interesting shout because it's something I can see happening given the struggles they had last year. Grosjean, I think he admitted, didn't he, doesn't quite know how to craft an oval car yet.
No.
Was that Grosjean who admitted that, I think?
I couldn't remember, I'll be honest. We're all avoiding RLO, which is interesting. Like, Fittipaldi hasn't done an oval race in a few years. Just as an example. That is a point. I think Fittipaldi has shown in the past that he has oval experience outside of IndyCar as well, obviously, and he's shown in IndyCar that he can be a solid factor in his few races that he's had. So it kind of all depends whether RLL do manage to kind of book up their ideas and all of the kind of work they've put in over the off-season. Sato should help if he's coming in, surely.
You would think so, as long as that means they still have enough resources on every car and they're not too focused on kind of spreading things out, and they streamlining can work better at the end of the day. So it'll be interesting. I think they are, obviously, other than Kyle Larson, who we are all saying is going to make the field.
I hope so. That would be a story if he doesn't make it.
I think he will as well. But yeah, other than Larson, I think RLL are kind of the story, aren't they?
Quite possibly, yeah. Going into May, obviously, I think the first few weeks will be pretty telling. But yeah, that could be quite a story to follow. So there we are. What we will do this year is actually make a list of all our predictions so that we aren't scrambling at the end of the year to find them all. But your earliest bumping predictions for May. So once the field does get confirmed at 34, we'll probably do this again. We'll probably do this again at the start of May.
It feels harsh, doesn't it?
It feels harsh picking a name, but someone's got to be bumped. So
I feel like you're setting them up for doom.
There's no disrespect to any driver, by the way. Froman, Grosjean, or Kiffin Simpson, if you're listening to this, so we've got to make a guess, and most of our guesses have gone horrifically wrong, as you'll see later on. So it's nothing personal. Talking of Abel Motorsports, there has been a few rumours in the last couple of weeks that they are looking at going full time next year.
Yes, indeed. I mean, the whole thing about having extra teams, because we'll also come on to the fact that Prema, I think there've been some reports. I think that was from Racer as well initially. It would be welcome having extra teams. I think there's a lot of names kind of being thrown out there about teams, and a lot of names in terms of drivers that can't fit on what is an already quite large grid. I mean, where do you cap it? I think that's something that needs to be looked at. Engine concerns are kind of a factor to consider with all of the talk about costs and, the report of Honda possibly having to consider stepping away if costs aren't cut. So, yeah, I mean, it would add to the spectacle, of course, and more teams, more competitive, larger field, harder to win. Your achievements are then amplified. But yeah, I think Abel would be a decent outfit. I mean, kind of showed that they're an adept enough operation at the 500 last year, and this year will be telling as well to see if they can kick on even further. But they have experience in the ladder series, of course. They've got some pedigree in Indy Next. And then obviously Jacob Abel, who kind of seems primed to make that step after another year in NXT. And then maybe if not, then Enerson, who said he's looking at an opening possibly for 2025. If he can find one and get a budget, then maybe he's a fallback option. But I think, yeah, it would be Jacob Abel, you would imagine, if they made that move.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be well, they're looking at one car at the minute. I don't think they're looking at going straight to two. That would be pretty brave if you were going to jump straight to two cars at the Indy 500 full-time season. Obviously, 28 is not a bad number. There might be a team that downsizes here, so it might create itself out. So Abel Motorsports, I think, would be a good addition. Obviously, I think Jacob is quite clearly the one who will fit in there fairly quickly on. He should be a title contender this season and next, so we'll see how that works out. But he's obviously going to be in prime position, which is obviously completely understandable. No huge surprises there. So I'm all for it. It's nice having another team on the grid. Hopefully they can really add something. You never know, they might come out of nowhere to be a surprise. So let's see how they get on. And, obviously the Indy 500 this year is going to be a bit of a teller for them, but hopefully we'll see them full time. And obviously you touched on Prema as well. I think Pratt and Miller are another team that are looking at coming into the series as well. As obviously a bit less known about them. I think they're in IMSA at the minute, but I might be incorrect in that. But Prema's the big story, coming from F2, F3, F4, Formula Regional, F1 Academy. They've got plenty of experience in Europe. I think I'll be confident saying they are the best team feeder series wise in Europe. So there'd be a left field edition, but Carlin did it a few years ago, and they were of pretty similar stature. So why not?
Yeah, I mean, I think Prema are the big discussion point, because Abel's kind of been something that's been thrown around a little bit, but Prema's a completely new revelation. Obviously, they've done some sports car stuff, but they are regarded widely as the best team in the F1 ladder system, with so much experience of success and sort of nurturing talent, bringing out some of the most successful the most talented young drivers. And yeah, I mean, would it be a possible landing spot for some talents coming over from the F1 side? You look at Frederick Vesti, for instance, this year, who's been left without a seat, or Felipe Drugovich, who was kind of, there was some talks about IndyCar, and I think he said that he's still focusing on F1, but it could open up a massive array of opportunities. It could, again, further that link between IndyCar and the European market if it happens. Could offer a route back in for Ilott if he doesn't end up at McLaren, for instance, reuniting with his former team. Could help with their transition as well if they were to make this move. Again, it comes back to logistics, regarding the engine. Do you need a third manufacturer then? And as well, are the personnel there? Have you got the personnel with the necessary expertise available to kind of let this effort run successfully? it didn't ultimately work out for Carlin. I think they got a pole with Daly, didn't they? But that was their best achievement. But yeah, even if you're established elsewhere, like Carlin are or were, given they've now been renamed, it's not easy to make the step, even if you do have a pedigree elsewhere. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it would work out. I think it'd be a fascinating move, and it could open up some good opportunities. But again, we just kind of need to look at the feasibility, and you're going to have to cap the grid at some point, because you're going to have bumping for regular races at this rate.
Do the bumping for the Hy-Vee home front 250 presented by Gatorade.
Then you'd come back the next day and race in the Google race or whatever it is.
Ed Sheeran in the middle of it if you get bumped, so not the end of the world.
True.
Well, knows it this year? It's Post Malone, isn't it?
Post Malone and Luke Coombs. Two very big names.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, as we said, we had Zach Brown last year, so Chip Ganassi's up this year.
Yeah, no, but I don't think we've recorded, have we, since the Iowa music was announced? But Hy-Vee kind of continue to do some pretty good stuff for the series. You've got to say, attracting names like Post Malone, Luke Coombs is fair play.
It's great. I mean, what they're doing a good job of is, let's be honest, I don't think Post Malone's going to Iowa on a regular basis. So that's going to bring in a whole new fans to watch Post Malone, and that just happens to be an IndyCar race at the same time. So that's absolutely fantastic. I mean, great work by Hy-Vee once again, and great work by Iowa Speedway.
No, exactly. I mean, you're exactly right, because these might not be motorsport fans who are coming for the concerts, but it just so happens that there's a motorsport event on, and even if you capture the attention of a few of these people who are coming for the concert, and then all of a sudden they think, we might want to get into this. So yeah, I really like the model, and I'm glad that Hy-Vee are kind of staying committed to IndyCar as well and keep on doing this. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. And Hy-Vee, I'm so glad they brought Iowa back. They've done a cracking job with it. Hopefully we sort of get something similar at Milwaukee. Obviously, it's not going to be straight away, but they've done a fantastic job at Iowa. I think maybe every evening they need a battle of team principals or something. Get AJ Foyt up there with Dale Coyne and have a sing along.
Yeah,
Ricardo Juncos in some Spanish. That'd be fantastic. Get the drivers on.
Well, yeah, what about Willpower Flavor Flav collab?
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, dude, let's get it on. I'm trying to think. There was another funny thing. Well, do you remember Ed Sheeran last year started raving the fields of green? Was he Post Malone do it this year?
I'm pretty sure they said Ed Sheeran was an IndyCar fan, which
it felt like a bit of a stretch. Felt like a bit of a stretch, I'll be honest. But
he
you never
was
know.
For that weekend.
Maybe he is. Yeah, he was the IndyCar fan for one weekend. You never know. But yeah, we'll see.
We'll take it.
The fame for the series. We'll see Post Malone bringing the field to green, which is an interesting thought. But there we are. So yeah, I think there's one last news which sort of broke on the day of recording, which was a bit left field, but it's very important in the context of the IndyCar driver market. Obviously, we're left with Dale Coyne Racing and the 2 seats we'll find out, and maybe St. Petersburg Free Practice 1 and St. Petersburg Free Practice 2. Danial Frost, though, has ruled himself out of the seat because he's going to do national service in Singapore, which is interesting. So he's off to Singapore for 2 years to serve with their military, so he won't be in IndyCar, at least, as we can see.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that kind of reveals why it was taking so long for the whole Coyne thing, whether, I don't know, was this something that needed to be decided? Because obviously he's been on Coyne's books. I think he's had an impressive test or two with the team as well. So yeah, maybe once Rob left, this was something that had to be decided. Whether it was something that Frost decided a long time ago, we don't know. I mean, I don't even know. I've got the statement up here, but I don't know where that's been posted. I've just seen it shared to Twitter.
I think it was on it looks like it's a Facebook thing.
Yeah,
I must be wrong in saying.
No, you could be right, to be fair. So yeah, I mean, good luck to him, and hopefully it maybe doesn't damage his chances of something in the future. I think he's got some backing behind him, hasn't he? So any opening in the future, maybe. But yeah, maybe things will move more quickly now that it's kind of been narrowed down a little bit. That could have been something that they needed to just make sure was confirmed or what have you. So yeah, now it's time to look at the other options, really. Devlin DeFrancesco is probably the one that we've spoken about all through, that he has some backing. He'll probably be one of them, you would imagine. Benjamin Pedersen brought some backing, I believe, to Foyt even, getting confused with the teams.
Stingray Rob and Benjamin Pedersen switching with each other is going to confuse us massively.
It is going to confuse us a lot. But then the other one, you're talking about outside options. Jack Harvey, does he come back into the picture? You know, I still rate Jack Harvey from his time at Meyer Shank, even if it didn't go right at RLL. But then who else? You've got Oliver Askew. Is he still searching around? Connor Daly wasn't actively pursuing.
They had a test of Fittipaldi and Abel, and obviously they've both been eliminated as options. So they always seem to have this massive pool of 1 million drivers, and it just gets shot.
Yeah, I mean, do they go calling for Daly or something along those lines?
Maybe. Do they go left field and sign someone from North Korea in F4 at the last minute? I mean, wouldn't be a surprise for Coyne, would it?
The Ignacio Montenegro equivalent.
Exactly. Maybe there's they don't really have a base on like Hunkos. I mean, they might pull someone out of thin air. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe Ignacio Montenegro. I'm
intrigued. I'm eager to hear some updates on it because it's just all been very quiet and it's probably been a bit chaotic behind the scenes for Rob leaving. All mustn't be well there, you would think, if it's taking this long, but maybe they're just waiting as long as they can to kind of see what their options are.
I mean, only 53 days to find out, so
52 by the time the podcast goes live.
Oh, they might announce it at 2 a.m. in the morning. You don't quite know if Coyne, do you? So
never.
We should just change our counter to counting down the days until we find Foyt's driver. Not Foyt, Coyne!
You're doing it now.
Rob, yeah. There we are. We'll change the counter to trying to find Coyne's new driver for 2024.
There you go.
Eventually, we'll get there. I mean, hopefully by Nashville we'll work it out.
I hope so.
We'll get there. Right. So let's have a look. Well, if you didn't catch our best of 2023 episode, we went over our favourite moments of the year, and there was a lot of it being prediction based. There were some great predictions, not many. I can't think of them now. I predicted Pelot winning the championship by winning in Portland was one.
I said Dixon would win a race.
I mean, Lundgaard winning a race was a better prediction, I think.
Probably, to be fair.
There was some shocking ones, but you can listen to last week's episode to find them out. And talking of shocking predictions, we thought, why not look back at our driver market predictions that we made in July or something like that? A very long time ago. So we did.
Yeah, we did 2 lots, didn't we? Which I completely forgot about.
So we'll look at the first lot this week. We might look at the second lot next week. So we're just going to react to our predictions because we've gone through them and we didn't get many right at all. So AJ Foyt, good news. We went for Ferrucci. I don't think that was particularly outbound.
Yeah,
Pedersen was the other one. So
I mean, it did seem locked in, multi-year deal. We couldn't foresee what was going to happen, so this isn't bad.
It's not bad. It's not bad, but yeah, Pedersen was. Yeah, I think it was expected at the time, so that wasn't horrific. I don't think many people saw Rob going over. So Andretti, Herta, Kirkwood locked in, fine. We predicted Ericsson, so that was good. Another tick box for us, I think.
All the way back then.
Yeah, in July. I mean, I feel like then it was still pretty obvious, no? But
maybe it was actually.
I might be wrong. We didn't expect him to downsize though, so we did say Grosjean would stay. But to be fair, Grosjean, even in July, you still looked back at the first 4 or 5 races and were like, oh, he's had a good start to the year. We just didn't expect him never to really.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it looked like that would be. I mean, don't get me wrong. It seems like a very powerful lineup, as you know, as it is with Ericsson, Kirkwood, Herta, but with Grosjean in the picture when on form, that looked like quite some lineup, didn't it? But obviously, a lot happened since then.
I think we just kind of expected him to get back to how he was at the beginning or closer.
Do you feel that with Grosjean, it'd be a really interesting team because there's a lot of people who are on a similar playing field. There's no real clear team leader there, but there's no sort of weakest driver or sort of driver who needs a bit more mentoring either. Herta, Kirkwood, Grosjean, and Ericsson would all have been on a very similar level. And I think that would have been quite hard for Andretti to manage a team of 4 drivers of that caliber. It might not have been the easiest thing to solve. So maybe they've actually sort of dodged a bullet there.
You could be right, yeah.
Arrow McLaren. Award, good. Rossi, good. Pelot, not so good. Again,
yeah,
it wasn't really like no one could have foreseen that coming, so I don't think we can be blamed for that. It wasn't ridiculously bad because if someone said to us even then that things were going to go the way they did, you would have been laughed at. So then it was more of a question of would he go to F1? Obviously that didn't happen, but yeah, there we are. Ganassi is where it gets a bit worse. So we didn't expect them to expand to 5. I don't think many people did. We did actually touch on Simpson a bit in the episode, but we sort of said we don't think he's ready yet. Obviously, he got a bit better towards the end of the season and next, to be fair to him. So obviously, we did see that coming. Dixon, obviously. Armstrong, obviously. And we obviously predicted them to step up to full-time as well. And then, obviously, Lundqvist was one, but he was still a nowhere at this point. So again, that would have been pretty. I don't think Pagano even.
Did we mention him?
Not for Ganassi. Well,
okay.
For other seats we did.
I remember this. I think.
But I don't think Pagano had even had his accident by then. So predicting that Pagano would have an accident which saw Linus Lundqvist replace him, and then Linus Lundqvist becoming so good he's get signed for Ganassi, I think that was a prediction and a half. So that's understandable. Lundqvist did say to us the other day that without those 3 races, he wouldn't be in those seats. So rather, I think that would have been the prediction of the year if we got that one right. So, and then obviously Pelot coming back was never going to be expected either. So then we had a case of who else would we pick. Malukas was one of them. Honda Links, good backing, popular guy. It made sense. I don't think it's ridiculous, but maybe a bit far-fetched. But again, it's not like I don't think it's a bad prediction.
No, that's not going to be in the compilation of bad predictions. I don't think it's just. He still moved to a major team, so.
Yeah, well, it wasn't miles off. And then Callum Ilott was the other one. And again, you could kind of see. I think there was a bit of confusion whether Ilott was on a multi-year or not. I think there was a lot of people sort of expecting him to stay at Hunkos. Maybe this one we maybe jumped the gun a bit. But again, it wasn't a terrible prediction. When you're looking at those empty spaces, you sort of needed a team leader, and obviously Simpson wasn't really going to provide that, even if he was coming up. And then I think we mentioned people like Robert Schwartzman and Nick Cassidy done testing, but never really in a serious aspect. Like, it was quite hard at the time, to be fair, to predict anyone who'd go into that seat.
Yeah, no, I agreed. I think I got the impression anyway that in his eyes it was always going to be Hunkos. Really, it was always going to be another year, and then 25 would have been when he gets any move to a major team, which hopefully could still happen for him. So yeah, again, not horrendous calls, I don't think.
Yeah, so again, it's not too bad. I think it gets worse from here, but we'll have a look. Dale Coyne Racing, I mean, we still don't know, but we still got them wrong. So put it that way. Stingray Rob was one. Again, you know,
maybe he'll make a spectacular U-turn.
I wouldn't be surprised. The combination of Dale Coyne Racing and this silly season would quite possibly could make it happen. But he's one we predicted, which probably isn't going to happen now. And then this is the only one I think we went different on, which is the second seat. We had no idea. We still have no idea 6 months later. I predicted Rasmussen. I don't think it was too bad. He was winning for Coyne and next. So, and obviously Carpenter is a better option for him. So I don't think that was horrendous. But then again, on the other side of things, he doesn't bring any backing, which maybe from my perspective, something that I needed to consider a bit more when making that prediction. Archie, you went for Siegel, which wasn't bad, but he just kind of struggled a bit towards the second half of the season. So
I think we kind of just said whoever won the championship would, and it was kind of just predicting at that point. I think Siegel was leading the championship at that point.
I mean, I predicted the champion, right? I just didn't predict where they go correctly. And then Eddie, you predicted Frost, which to be fair has been the closest of the three.
I'll check that. I think I've had worse
until today. So yeah, it's not bad. But yeah, I mean, we still got no idea. Maybe Frost will return from Singapore, and maybe Siegel would change his mind on what he's doing next year. Who knows?
Who knows at this stage?
Yeah, this will be a constant theme with the off-season episodes. Who are Coyne going to field?
Because I don't think they know either. So
then we go on to Ed Carpenter. VK was one, obviously, and then we went for Lundqvist, which it makes sense. I think there was always a belief when Hunter A came in, he was never going to stay. And then it was just a case of who would go in that seat. I think Lundqvist made sense because he was a driver who they could afford to put in that seat because they've obviously got the sponsors in Bitnard, or was it Guy Care now, and Risk on International. So they got
his standing was lower at that point as well, obviously, having not done those races. So it made sense not to put him with one of the major teams.
Yeah, and maybe if he didn't go to Ganassi, he would have been the sort of guy that Carpenter looked at. I don't think, again, it's not a horrendous prediction, I don't think. So
we're doing all right so far.
It's not like they're all wrong, but they're not like disgustingly wrong. So
some of them are still on the grid now, so it's like we got the names right, just the wrong team.
Juncos, Canapino, that was pretty obvious, I think. Then this was where it was hard because Islet was going to leave, and we were just like, what on earth's going to happen here? Obviously, we expected Grosjean to stay at Andretti, so we plopped out Felix Rosenqvist, which I don't think it's horrendous. He sort of went to a similar level team. It's not an horrendous prediction again. None of these were really that bad, but they're just funny to look back on.
Had Ignacio Montenegro not entered the fray at this point?
I think he came in the next driver prediction episode. I think.
I thought it was going to be this. Shame.
Eventually. But, yeah, I mean, Rosenqvist sort of went to a similar level team, and Grosjean wasn't really an option in the market at the time, so it's not bad. Again,
makes sense.
Shank will go on to in a minute, and obviously their situation dramatically changed. But again, it made sense to line up Canapino and Rosenqvist, so not horrendous. Talking my Shank, we did predict Blomqvist, which is good. We said he'd do only the road and street though, and they'd chuck Sato and ovals, which
I think at that point there'd been a report, hadn't there, that Sato was going to share a ride with someone.
Yes. I
don't remember where it was from, but I think there was someone just said it, and it seemed
that's
believable.
how the rumors work. Well, do you remember the iconic rumor of Connor Daly? Connor Daly made the rumor of Scott Dixon going to Dale Coyne Racing. So,
and now Off Track have carried that on.
Yeah, and it's still in the cards. Who knows?
True.
Who knows? We're still waiting. Coyne, we're gonna talk about you every episode until you announce your drive. There's great PR for Coyne.
It is.
They're making everyone guessing. But yeah, there was kind of that really random rumor that Sato was going to ride share, and he didn't. We got Blomqvist right, so that's what 12 out of 17 races right.
Yeah.
So no, 11.
Right.
We got 11 of 17 races right in that aspect.
Yeah, I just agree with you without thinking, to be honest.
And then we put in Pagano, who as I said, I don't think had his accident. So again, predicting Pagano to get an accident, then us really not to hear from him again, and then that gap to be available was pretty hard to predict. Rosenqvist obviously made sense, but again, it's not horrendous. I think our impetus was that Pagano was sort of guide Blomqvist in his first year, but that's sort of what Castroneves' role is doing, really. So our logic made sense. And then Team Penske was obviously locked in. And then RLL, I don't think any of us had any idea that Pietro Fittipaldi was going to be in that seat. So that would be a good guess. We all sort of said Vips. Again, it wasn't horrendous. He obviously did those 3 races. And
it got better as the year went on as well, before the ultimately Fittipaldi surprised us all.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's still sort of there. It's just not really driving. So it's not bad. But none of these predictions were that bad.
Yeah, I expected so much worse.
Yeah, no, maybe the next episode of Drive Predictions is a lot worse.
I think the next one is
which is quite impressive how we've managed to get worse with our predictions over time, and we knew more about the market. But
we're probably there's probably been so much information by that point we were just confused.
Probably. We'll have a look from the next off-season episode at where they ended all up, but not bad for the first attempt. Just interesting to look back on.
Not bad at all.
What we did do at the end of the episode, though, was make some Indy 500 predictions. We said, Michael Andretti, that'd be a throwback. Marco Andretti will be with Andretti, which was bold, and Ed Carpenter would be with Carpenter. Bold.
Wow.
We did say Connor Daly would go to DNR though.
So, yes, because that was around the time he was doing the Nitro Cross, I think, with them.
And he must have just been just been removed. It must have been about a race or two
Yeah.
after. It's been
So
removed.
this was July, was it?
Let me have a look at the exact date the podcast went live. So that episode was, I think, it was before.
To be fair, they weren't that bad. I feel like we went off the information that we heard.
Okay,
and,
so to be fair, this was just after Mid-Ohio, so it was after Pagenaud's crash. But this was published on July the 11th, so it was over 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think at the time we kind of thought Pagenaud would just be back. It didn't seem that serious, did it?
No, not in the immediate aftermath. So, yeah. Times change. Our predictions obviously clearly got worse. I'll look back on this episode in May when I see Roman Grosjean's taken pole and had the most dominant Indy 500 of all time.
Should we make some for the remaining seats for Coyne in the Indy 500
this
then?
is just okay. Let's do it.
So right, I'll lead this off with Coyne. I'm going to say Devlin Di Francesco and probably Benjamin Pedersen.
I was gonna go for that, so I've got to be different. I think Di Francesco's got to be one, and then I'm just gonna go Jack Harvey. Then in that case, no one really.
I'd like that. We'd like that as Brits, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're all agree on Di Francesco. So who else is like available? I've forgotten now. Who's
anyone you can think of is available.
Dixon to Coyne.
That's it. That's the one.
Max Verstappen is a left field call up to Coyne.
But realistically, probably Daly, Askew, you would imagine. Could Drugovich still be in the picture if he changes his mind and makes some sort of U-turn?
I feel like Daly would go into it. I feel like he's not done with the series, and
yeah. I mean, he said he wasn't chasing opportunities, but if the opportunity came to him, and it could come to him if they get desperate. Yeah,
and then DNR. I think I'm forced into going for Daly for that one, so let's lock him in there. And let's just look in RHR because it's probably going to be him. So
yeah, I'm completely agree. I can't really dispute that.
I know he's got to pick someone. To be fair, it's just going to be Wilson. You'd imagine, if not Daly.
Yeah. Wilson's a really interesting one because he still looks like he's intent on driving, but where does that come?
Yeah, I feel a bit mean if Wilson doesn't get a seat after he sort of missed out on the opportunity last year. But
yeah, I agree.
These things happen. So
I feel like I could see him as not a one-off, but maybe on like certain tracks, but not full time. I don't
know. Yeah, you're going to go for Wilson and RHR then?
Oh, might as well.
Might as well. Fine. Are we going to go bold and all say Andretti to Andretti?
I think I'm going to have to.
Don't think there's a choice here.
I think that's so left field.
Again, I think we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Why do they delay it so much?
I don't know.
Just announce
Maybe they're just not going to announce it. They're probably bored of announcing it, aren't they?
They might as well just announce it for the next 5 Indy 500s. Yeah, Marco's going to be until 2028, by the way. Just
sign a contract.
Exactly. Just sign a 10-year Indy 500 contract. Just save them announcing it every year. To be fair, they probably are looking around for sponsorship or something like that, but they're still taking too long.
Last year, I think I remember the sponsor now. Was it Cooler? Was that his sponsor?
Cooler.
I didn't remember that, did I, in the quiz? But I remember it now.
And then we've got RLL. They're going to fill someone extra, do you think?
I think if Sato is available, I think they probably will. I'm not necessarily saying it's wise for them to field a fourth car if they're not confident that they can get 3 cars firing, but I think Sato, if they do, I think will, and I think he will be available. So I reckon that may happen.
I don't think that they will. I feel like they might do just to try, but I feel like it would be smart if they wouldn't and try and focus on the cars that they have and kind of just get them to the best standard, I guess.
It's a weird one because I feel like Sato's too good not to go in somewhere. You feel like he's got to be in there somewhere, but you look at the opportunities left and it's pretty much just RLL. So I'm more inclined to say that that RLL going to drop down to 3 just because of what happened last year. But then again, I see Sato available and I'm like, got to take him. So I'm going to say they do take him just because again, he's available. Like, he's too good to say no to almost.
That's
So,
exactly my thinking. Like, is it, worth just having his expertise and his experience on board, and yes, running 4 cars, maybe not having your personnel streamlined as much and focused as much just on the 3 cars, but then, just having his know-how on board could be just as beneficial as sticking with 3, I reckon.
And then Foyt, are they going to run an extra one?
I mean, this is something that I hadn't really figured out was happening until I read that report from Marshall Pruitt. So I don't know if JR Hildebrand's serious about it and he has some backing, then I reckon it probably will happen.
I'm gonna just say no because I don't know. It's just that I can't speak. Recently rumored, so I'm just gonna say no.
I'm gonna be
Right,
hopeful. I'm going to be hopeful. I'm going to say Hildebrand gets his chance at redemption for 2011 and another chance of redemption for 2011. And he manages to get one together. And that means we'd have 36 as well.
As I say, you're predicting we have 36, which is...
And I'm maybe a bit out of hope, but that would be pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
I honestly have no idea, so I'm just going to say no.
Tough one. I mean, I miss likes of Sage Karam. Like, what's he up to nowadays? I did like Sage Karam. Bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few drivers like that out there, aren't there?
Yeah, like back in James Davison from 2020, showing my youthful IndyCar knowledge here. But there's just do you remember like Tatiana Calderon was in the series?
Yeah, yep.
I just have these random names like Spencer Piggott. Again, recent years, Ed Jones. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through old names now. I'd love to see Hinch have a run back at the 500.
I'd love to see Hinch as well, but I don't. I mean, I think he said he'd be willing to, but I just don't know if the opportunity.
It feels like he's a good option, but it just feels like nowadays. I feel sort of the issue is where there's now so many full-time entries, you sort of don't have that Indy 500 flexibility anymore, which is why we don't get these one-off drivers.
Yeah, no, agreed. But yeah, Hildebrand would be cool. The Speedway Jesus.
It's going to be Connor Daly's name for Carroll's and growing out the mullet in a few years' time. Have a pit hero battle with Santino Ferrucci for the best mullet at the 500. That's the way to settle their rivalry once and for all.
Yep. Yeah, he'll have to take on Rob's advice of sticking a fork in an electrical appliance. What a quote.
Viewers and listeners at home, we advise you don't emulate Santino Ferrucci's hairstyle by doing that, just to make it.
Yeah. Stingray went a bit rogue with that one.
Stingray's coming out of nowhere with all these ideas, so you never know. We'll see what happens. But I think that is all we have got time for this week. So viewers, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. Put your predictions in the comments below on who you think will race in the Indy 500 and use your 4 month early prediction to get bumps. So see if it's going to be as worse as ours in 4 months' time. So as I said, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.